Before lights out, I lay in bed, lost in thought. It was thrilling to think we could finally leave this hellish place. Who wouldn't be excited? But deep down, I couldn't shake a nagging worry. Had everything gone too smoothly? Was it really this simple? Hannah told me to stop jinxing us. Rose stayed silent, but I knew she was anxious too. Lights out. This time, the silence was replaced by the opposite. The normally quiet dormitory gradually came alive. Doors opening and closing, slow footsteps patrolling. I counted about 4 people walking in the hallway. Then, they began knocking on each dorm door, 4 knocks each, trying to open them. There weren't many survivors left, so I heard many doors being opened. Only 2 or 3 dorms remained shut. The footsteps lingered unusually long at these locked doors. Footsteps stopped at our door. I held my breath. The creature tried to turn the doorknob but couldn't open it. I sensed the good child standing at the door for a while before leaving. Just as I breathed a sigh of relief, a loud bang at the door made me sit up in shock. What the hell? Hannah also sat up. What was that? More loud bangs followed, and we all heard clearly this time. It was breaking down the door. I signaled everyone, and the 3 of us barricaded the door. The good children began pounding on doors throughout the dorm. I think we don't have to follow the dorm rules anymore, I shouted as I pushed against the cupboard, barely audible over the deafening banging. The rules protecting students are disappearing. Hannah understood and shouted back, "What are those things?" "Who knows?" Rose added another cupboard to the barricade, her voice trembling and frantic. "All I know is we're screwed." It took 2 of us to hold the door against the creature's strength. We took turns guarding it all night. Sometimes the banging would stop, but with no pattern or warning. It could be minutes or just seconds before it resumed. We dared not make a move. Throughout the night, the dormitory echoed with the sounds of doors being broken down and the desperate cries of survivors. We heard 2 girls from a dorm leave their room, perhaps seeking an escape, but they had barely run a few steps before their screams faded into the distance. That night felt like an eternity. Only when the lights came back on did the noise outside subside. We cautiously checked before leaving our room. The entire dormitory bore signs of destruction and struggle. "It's like a Syrian dorm now," I joked bitterly. Hannah and Rose said my joke was cold. Passing the name board, I counted the survivors. Excluding the good children, only 7 of us remained. The 3 of us, with a total of 6 dark circles under our eyes, met the energetic Lee in the cafeteria. "You 3 look like you went to save the world," he said in surprise. "Cut the crap," Hannah cut him off. "Where were you last night?" Under our questioning, Lee shared his experience from the previous night. After dinner and parting ways, he suddenly thought, since the academic building was not fatal for normal people, could he stay there overnight instead of returning to the dormitory? What would happen if he stayed in the academic building all night? It was just a guess. He had no reason to drag others into danger, so he went alone. Unexpectedly, the Chaos faction had started to ignore the rules. "The academic building is safe for overnight stays," Lee stated firmly. I was hesitant at first, but then I met teachers returning with their meals. "And I discovered a bug," he said proudly. "Declarative statements don't count as questions." He had found a corner in the academic building's lobby and saw the teachers returning with their meals. He approached one and said, "I'm staying overnight in the academic building." The teacher smiled, nodded at him without saying a word, and then returned to her normal state and went upstairs. Lee wasn't sure if the teacher meant "okay, noted," or "you can," but with the dormitory doors locked, he had no choice but to stay the night. And nothing happened. "Declarative statements aren't questions," Lee said innocently. "I could have been simply informing the teacher that I was staying overnight in the academic building." Amazing. It didn't matter anymore. At least we wouldn't have to return to that Syrian-like dorm tonight. At least that was some good news. In the cafeteria, we finally had a chance to sit down and have a proper conversation with the other 3 survivors. Among them were 2 female twins, both athletes specializing in shot put, and a male student named Jia Feng. Jia Feng shared the harrowing experiences of his dormitory. Originally, there were 3 people in his room, but one couldn't make it through the first night, and the other was extremely pessimistic. "He's cried more these few days than I have in my entire life," Jia Feng described his roommate. He wanted to say more but ultimately respected the deceased with silence. The despondent roommate eventually couldn't bear the despair and jumped out of the building. The noise attracted the good children, the term used for transformed students, who climbed over from the next balcony. Jia Feng fled, but ended up trapped in the staircase, sandwiched between the good children. His commotion drew the good children from the entire building, leading them to mistakenly believe it was safe to peek outside. That's when they saw Jia Feng running frantically towards them, pursued by a horde of good children, like dogs chasing a bone, as Wen Li described it. Despite his slender frame, Wen Qi managed to pull Jia Feng into their room with one hand. The good children banged on their door for a few minutes but couldn't break through the sisters' fortification and eventually dispersed. We realized that the quiet interval we experienced last night was thanks to these 2 brave women. The inhabitants of dorm room 311 expressed their heartfelt gratitude to the sisters. With the end approaching, there was no need to withhold information anymore, so we all shared our experiences and insights. Jia Feng, overcome with excitement at the prospect of escape, shook Li vigorously. "Who's your buddy?" Li distanced himself, adjusting his glasses. "I'm your father." No one knew when or how they had formed such a close bond, but it seemed genuinely heartfelt. After all, the most sincere relationship in the world is that of parent and child. After dinner, we returned to the academic building, where the 7 of us crouched together in a corner of the lobby. We still had 7 questions left, but Hannah said there was no need to ask anymore. Lee felt it was a waste not to use them, but he needed to think about what exactly to ask. Jia Feng joked that Li was just being stubborn because he didn't know what to ask. I reserved my opinion. The teachers soon returned with their meals, as Li had mentioned. A shadow suddenly darted from beside me. It was Li Yi. He randomly grabbed a lucky teacher. "Teacher, I have a question." The teacher glanced over our line of people, seemingly surprised, and then looked at Li Yi. "Ask." Will asking a question outside the academic building result in a deduction of points? Li Yi's question seemed pointless. I was surprised. Was he starting to give up? Yes, the teacher answered with a wide smile and then returned to normal and left. Deduction of points? Wasn't it supposed to be instant death? I remembered clearly. It was the first question I asked. Asking a teacher outside the academic building leads to instant death. But she didn't lie to me. Indeed, there is one situation where a deduction of points is essentially equal to death. and that's at 0 points. Did the teacher give me an incomplete answer at the beginning? Why did she hide it? The teacher couldn't just be satisfying her own twisted sense of fun by scaring me. What use would it be to scare me? You will die. I suddenly understood. It was because of this answer that I realized the malice hidden in the student rules. This was the key that guided me to eventually discover the trickery in the rules. Did Lee not know I had asked this question? He knew. We were in the same class. He said he saw me ask the question and even called out my name. Where was he sitting at that time? I searched my memory but realized I had never seen Lee in the classroom. It's not that I didn't see him, he simply wasn't in my class. This was a lie from the beginning. Why didn't I suspect him until now? Why did it seem so natural when we returned to the academic building together from the cafeteria so many times, but he never entered the same classroom as me? Did he influence my thoughts? Is that possible? If that's true, why would he want to influence my thoughts? Were all his acts of kindness up to now fake? What's his purpose? What traps are waiting for me? I glanced at Lee nonchalantly, only to find him still standing there, lost in thought. If he wanted to harm me, there were plenty of opportunities. He could easily trap me multiple times. I decided to trust him. The 5th day finally arrived. School ended 10 minutes early today. I hurried to the lobby of the academic building to meet up with the others. Everyone was there, gathered at the front door of the academic building, looking outside. I followed their gaze and felt a sinking feeling. A fog had risen outside, hiding countless figures. They were the good children, coming for the few remaining people. In the distance, a ridiculously tall humanoid monster could be vaguely seen. Although its face was not visible, I could feel it watching us. Could that be the master of the dormitory building we've never seen before? Jia Feng exclaimed in shock. It's so tall, at least 3 meters, right? Under these circumstances, only Jia Feng could remain optimistic. With only 30 minutes left to figure out how to leave here and get to the cafeteria, we were running out of time. How likely do you think it is to rush through? Wen Qi asked Wen Li, looking outside. A suicide mission, Wen Li succinctly replied. You still have 6 questions, a teacher's voice suddenly sounded behind us. We turned around to find that all the teachers of Wangshan Study Center had gathered in the first floor lobby. 2 female teachers, 3 male teachers. All of them were maintaining their widest abnormal smiles. With the Good Children Army outside and the Splitmouth group inside, the scene was incredibly eerie. Come over, Li Yi pulled me aside, let's discuss. The 7 of us huddled together for a quick meeting. The biggest problem was the Good Children Army outside and the master of the dormitory building. How could we get information that would allow us to safely cross this distance? For minutes later, we posed our final questions to the teachers. Our side asked, is there a way for us to safely cross from here to the cafeteria? The teachers answered, yes. Our side asked, what will happen if we are caught by the good children or the master of the dormitory building? The teachers answered, become good children or die. Li Yi nudged me, help me ask a question. His question was, where is the key to the method mentioned in the first question? One of the teachers raised a finger towards Li Yi. Li Yi? He is the key to our safe arrival at the cafeteria? Don't joke with me, brother. This gives me the familiar feeling of finding out my poor deskmate from middle school suddenly discovers his biological father is the city's richest man, Xiaofeng sighed. I remember now, Li thought for a while, for the first time not responding to Xiaofeng. Yes, it's me. Really you, kid? Hannah approached. Li smiled wryly. Sorry, I just remembered. Wow, Wang Yu said. 9 minutes left until noon. A teacher came over and handed Li a utility knife. No time to explain, we'll talk more in the cafeteria, he said quickly. Here's the plan. I'll go out first, and you guys follow me. Once outside, head straight to the cafeteria and run for your lives. Wen Qi was a bit confused. But Li had already taken the utility knife and cut his finger. A bizarre scene unfolded. Pale blue smoke poured out from the wound. Run! Before we could react, he yelled and dashed out first. Exiting the academic building, the blue smoke spread from Li's hand, and we followed him out. The good children indeed stopped chasing us and swarmed towards the blue smoke. The 3-meter-tall monster of the dormitory building strode towards us. I wanted to look back at Li but was pulled by Hannah. Don't look back, just run. 11:59. The cafeteria door was within reach. Hurry. Hannah pulled me and Wang Yu, speeding towards the cafeteria. Xiaofeng and the Wen sisters were right behind us, just a step away. The 3-meter-tall monster was almost upon us. The cafeteria was also just a step away. No one expected the sudden turn of events. The monster's abdomen split open, and a thick, spiky tentacle stretched out towards Wenli. Sister. Wen Qi instinctively pulled Wenli forward, throwing her ahead but was pushed back by the huge counterforce. Wenli fell to the floor of the cafeteria, while Wen Qi was dragged back by the tentacle. She was devoured right in front of us. Wenli got up to rush out but was held back by us. 12:30. The cafeteria doors opened, and we saw Li again. He told us the truth. Li, standing firm, is the embodiment of the free will of all students forever trapped within this study center. His strong yearning for freedom and the future became so intense that it gave birth to his existence. This overwhelming will twisted the school's original intent, turning this inescapable death trap into a sliver of hope for life. The tug-of-war between these two forces created the complete Wangshan Study Center, crafted 2 sets of student rules with diametrically opposed goals, and tore apart this space, creating a neutral zone and an escape rift, the cafeteria. The cafeteria symbolizes the rules. To intervene in the 5-day cycle, both the school's will and the will of freedom must abide by the rules. For the first 4 days, the dormitory monster could only appear within the dormitory building and not before lights out. Li Yi, however, could only regain his memory and find the key to escape on the last day after hearing the answer to the crucial question from a teacher. Li Yi, being the collective will, has no blood. The pale blue smoke is the color of the sky, representing all the perished freedom, dreams, and futures. It's something even the good children long for. Li is all the students who stayed here, using their lost futures to build a bridge of life for future students. There's not much time left. You should go, Li said, looking at Wenli. You need to live well. Tears flowed down Wenli's face again. Let me tell you a secret then. Lee adjusted his glasses. The teachers are students who once escaped from here. All the teachers are familiar loved ones or friends who have forever stayed here. After death, they chose to return in spirit to Wangshan to protect new students. When Lee was visibly moved by his words, she looked up eagerly, her lips trembling, but all she managed to say was a simple thank you. Let's go. Lee waved his hand. Leave this place. We took off our school uniforms, climbed through the food-serving window into the kitchen, and pushed open the only door in the back kitchen. Blinding white light burst forth, engulfing me. Keep walking forward to leave this place, Leah's voice echoed. I'm not alone. We are thousands and thousands of free wills forever remaining here. We are the guiding lights in the darkness for those who come after us. In the midst of the white light, I faintly saw 5 figures standing side by side in front of the academic building. From afar, I bowed deeply to them once more.
Thank you for taking the time to watch. If this video connected with you, I'd be grateful for your follow. Your likes and comments are not just numbers to me, they're a source of inspiration and encouragement. Your support truly means the world.